I got pregnant with the boss's kid, and now I'll be taking over as the boss's wife. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Sophia, my husband's mistress, had been mocking me, showing off her youth, and trying to prove she was better than me every chance she got. She even took my job as the president's secretary, and now she's going after my husband. Well, I won't hold back anymore. I'll make sure they both suffer. I decided to let go of Eric and Sophia. I signed the divorce papers Eric gave me, but I made sure to get a big compensation. They got married in Italy with a grand ceremony. Things changed a week later. I got a call from Sophia. Hey, Eric hasn't come home. As his ex-wife, you must know where he is, right? Sophia's voice was frantic. I laughed in a mean way, just as I had expected. I kept quiet, but I knew his secrets. My name is Ingrid, a 56-year-old working housewife. I work as the president's secretary at my husband Eric's company. At 6 a.m., I wake up earlier than my husband to prepare breakfast. Then I head to work alone, tidying up and cleaning the president's office. It's a daily routine. I want Eric to work comfortably. At 8 a.m., Eric arrives at the president's office. Thank you, Ingrid. You cleaned again today, he says. I approach Eric and retie his tie. It's fine, dear. You want to work in a clean room, right? I reply. That's right, Eric says. Eric and I were married through an acquaintance's introduction. We haven't been blessed with children, but we've lived together, supporting each other. This year marks our 28th wedding anniversary. The company, taken over by Eric from his father-in-law, is stable, and I've had no complaints about our life. By the way, the new business you planned, Carl is going to fund it. The transfer was confirmed earlier, Eric mentions. That's great. Joe seems to like you. You negotiating helped a lot, I respond. The company is run by Eric as the president and his brother as the chairman. His brother's name is Carl, but Eric calls him Joe. Remember Carl funded another business you planned before? Aren't you proceeding with that? I casually ask. Eric looks annoyed. It's fine. I'll handle it, he says. Okay, nothing special on today's schedule, right? I ask. Yes, because you mentioned it before. Eric smiles contentedly. Good, good. Then Ingrid, there's someone I want to introduce to you. I'll bring them here, so wait for me, Eric says. Understood, I reply, feeling a bit uneasy at his words. Soon, I hear laughter from the hallway. Eric's voice and another voice, a young woman's voice. As I wonder about their friendly demeanor, the office door opens. Kept you waiting, huh, Ingrid? Eric says with a pleased look. But I forget to respond, fixated on the woman sitting next to him. She is very young, with long, neatly arranged hair. She is dressed in a miniskirt that reveals her thighs and a camisole that exposes her chest. It looks like she's dressed for a night out, but she wears it impressively, and I am astounded by her youth. This is Sophia. She'll be working here from today. Eric introduces her. Nice to meet you, Sophia says. I am dumbfounded. Is this a joke? My husband introducing a young woman to me? This alone is bad for my heart. Moreover, we don't hire fresh graduates. Excuse me, but how old is Sophia? I ask. She's 21. I met her at a bar with friends. We hit it off, and she's young and fresh. She gives me energy. Don't you think she'll boost the morale of our employees? Eric responds. Yes. He must be serious. Unable to say anything in front of my husband's radiant expression, I nod. Then Ingrid, please teach Sophia the ropes. Eric instructs. Sophia is going to work as a general employee, right? Then wouldn't it be better? I start to say, but Eric cuts me off. Oh, I forgot to say, we're going to have 2 secretaries from now on, so please teach Sophia the secretary work, Eric said. 2 secretaries? Is that necessary? I asked, feeling confused. Well, you're getting on in years. It's okay to pass on work to the younger ones. Eric laughed lightly, and it pained my heart. Age, the way you say it. Then take care. I'm going out for a bit on a personal errand. I'm counting on you to show her the ropes, Eric said, leaving Sophia and me alone in the president's office. I took a deep breath to calm myself. Once Eric decides on something, he tends to rush into it and then spectacularly fails, only to regret it later. This has happened often throughout our marriage. It's useless to say anything at times like this. For now, I'll just do as he says. It's bound not to work out anyway. Hey, Ingrid. Sophia tapped my shoulder. Yes. How old are you, Ingrid? Feeling it was wrong not to answer after asking her age, I told her the truth. I'll be 56 this year. But it seemed my sincere feelings did not reach Sophia. What? You're as old as my grandmother. Poor thing, you could die any time, and yet you still work. That's kind of sad. I gave a wry smile. I like my job. It's not sad. Sad? I see. The sad one is the boss, right? Whether he's at home or at work, he's always with an old woman. Really poor thing. With each word she said next, my face grew more strained. What exactly are you trying to say? You don't get it, I guess. When you get older, your brain starts to slow down. Sophia let out a big sigh and clearly said, being young and beautiful, I have a higher status than an old lady like you. You understand, right? Her smile was full of confidence, and I shivered. I couldn't stay silent any longer. You know, you should learn some common sense. Did I make you angry? Is it menopause? What? See, you get angry so quickly. It must be hard to keep working if you get upset over such things. Plus, with menopause, you sweat a lot and get short of breath, right? It's embarrassing to try so hard. Maybe it's time for you to retire. As I stood dumbfounded, Sophia laughed and whispered in my ear, "Why don't you retire as the president's wife too?" I shuddered. This person intends to take Eric away from me. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Enough is enough. With that kind of intention, I can't teach you anything. Leave the company right now. I expected a quarrel, but Sophia looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. What? I just wanted to get along with you, Ingrid, and made a joke, but it was too much. Too much. Sophia collapsed to the floor, sobbing. She looked like the heroine of a tragedy. I'll leave this company. Thank you for everything. Sophia ran out of the room. What is happening? Overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, I stood there dumbfounded until Sophia returned with a red-faced Eric in tow. What are you doing? His sudden yell made me tremble. What's wrong, dear? I asked. I heard from Sophia you yelled at her. It's because she said something terrible. Don't lie. I've been listening to your conversation. What? Sophia had recorded our argument on her mobile phone. The recording started from the moment I scolded Sophia, giving the impression that I suddenly blamed her without reason and made her cry. That's why she apologized. I bit my lip in frustration as I saw Sophia sobbing sincerely. You don't believe me? Believe Sophia? She came to me crying about what you did. There's a recording. It's clear whose words have more credibility. A secretary who bullies employees is fired as of today, Eric declared. I couldn't believe it. I had always supported Eric both at home and at work. And now, he would abandon me for Sophia, who just joined the company. Wait, then who will do this secretary's job? I asked, hoping to make him reconsider. It's decided. Sophia will do it, Eric responded. That's impossible. And what about you? I swallowed the words that had almost slipped out. I tried again in a way that only Eric and I would understand. You know about your hobby. I'll handle that myself. I prefer pure and cute Sophia over you, who lies to me, the president. Besides, a young and beautiful girl like her suits me better than you do, don't you think? Eric narrowed his eyes happily and looked at Sophia beside him. Sophia looked up at Eric with adoration and flashed a brilliant smile. Then she turned to me and stuck out her tongue just a little. I protested to Eric many times, but he wouldn't listen at all. The job of a secretary is not easy. Despite my insistence that Sophia couldn't handle it, all I got back were his overly optimistic words, saying it was an exaggeration or, "You won't know until you try." He must think he's become a knight protecting his princess. I was speechless at his foolishness. Hardly what you'd expect from someone running a company. Eventually, Eric threw out my personal items from my workspace. Instead, he arranged a brand new desk and cute stationery for young people, all for Sophia. Realizing this was all in vain, I decided not to waste any more effort and left the company. However, Eric didn't come home that night. He didn't return my calls either. I thought it was just his way of getting back at me. But as a week, a month, 3 months passed, I grew anxious. One day, I was called to the company by Eric and was heading to the president's office. Maybe he's finally understood how hard the secretary's job was, I thought. Maybe he might have decided to let Sophia go and call me back. I knocked on the president's office door with a sliver of hope. "Come in," Eric said. As I opened the door, I was met with an unbelievable scene. Eric, smiling happily, was holding hands with Sophia beside him. The two of them looked at me and laughed joyously. "It's been a while, Ingrid. We have some big news today," Eric said. "What is it?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Actually, Eric began, but Sophia put her hand over his mouth. "Let me say it, okay? I want to thank the wife, right?" Eric nodded deeply, and Sophia said to me with a beaming smile, "We're getting married. Thank you for everything you've done for Eric." "What?" I exclaimed, feeling my world crumble. In front of my shaking self, Eric laughed sheepishly. "No, I thought there's no point in hiding it. I'm thinking of starting a second life. You're getting too old. It's better for you to live quietly by yourself." "What? Is that how you dare to treat me after all these years?" I shouted, but they just continued to smile at each other, as if my pain meant nothing to them. I felt as if the blood had drained from my body. "Wait a minute, Ingrid. The talk isn't over yet. Here, a present." Sophia handed me a few sheets of paper. They were printed with black and white photos. Seeing them, I felt sick. "This, ultrasound, don't tell me." Sophia nodded slowly and gently stroked her belly as she came closer and whispered in my ear, "I got pregnant with Eric's child. I'll be taking over as the president's wife." She laughed, and at that moment, something inside me snapped. Sophia had mocked me, the president's wife, flaunted her youth, and tried to assert her superiority at every turn. She even took my job as the president's secretary, and now she's aiming for Eric. Well, I won't hold back anymore. I'll make sure they both plummet to the depths of hell. I decided to let Eric and Sophia be together. I signed the divorce papers that Eric handed to me. Of course, I received a hefty compensation. They had a grand wedding in Italy. Things changed a week later. I got a call from Sophia. "Hey, Eric hasn't come home. As his ex-wife, you must know where he is, right?" Sophia's voice was frantic. I laughed maliciously, just as I had expected. I kept quiet, but Eric is, I exposed my husband's terrible secrets. He has a favorite hobby. He's probably in Vegas right now. Vegas? Ever heard of it? There's this big hotel in Las Vegas with a casino. Eric always rushes there whenever he has a chance. Sophia gasped. "Does that mean?" "Yes, Eric is probably indulging in gambling right now. I was the one who carefully scheduled his time to prevent him from getting too involved." It seems the new secretary was kept in the dark. He didn't want to show his bad side, spending the money he earned on gambling. Sophia was silent, seemingly in shock. I let out a small laugh. I'm actually thankful to you. What? Eric started getting into gambling these past few years. It seems someone from a new business partner invited him. And what about it? Sophia asked. Before you came along, there was still a bit of affection left in Eric. I was worried about him falling deeper, but now I've completely cut him off. Taking such a low man off my hands and even giving me a hefty compensation, there couldn't have been a better opportunity. Thanks to you, I can enjoy my second life. I laughed heartily. I could hear Sophia breathing heavily over the phone. Don't you dare joke about this, getting all high and mighty, she shouted. Goodbye. You have a tough road ahead as the president's wife, I said sarcastically and hung up on Sophia, ignoring her shouting from the other end. A few days later, as I was relaxing in my new condo, the doorbell rang. Could it be a delivery? I haven't ordered anything. Suspicious, I looked through the peephole. There stood my ex-husband, Eric, his face red with anger. You're there, aren't you, Ingrid? How dare you tell Sophia about the gambling? Ah, the gambling. Understanding the situation, I decided to let Eric in. He must have hired a detective to find my address. Running away now would only lead to him chasing me again. Might as well settle things here. I had important information to share with him. I prepared a clear file of documents before opening the door. It's been a while, hasn't it? I greeted him with a graceful smile. What do you mean, it's been a while? After you ruined my family, how can you still smile? Eric was furious, shouting and trying to intimidate me, but such tactics don't work on a wife of many years. Oh my, why are you so red-faced? What happened? I asked, feigning concern. It's none of your business, he snapped. I chuckled. He came here just to vent his anger, but I could see through what had happened between them. You must have had a fight with your wife. Shut up. Sophia must be unhappy with most of your income going to gambling. She told you she would manage the finances, and you're on an allowance now, right? Eric froze in shock. How? How do you know that? Did you plant a bug or something? He asked seriously, and I burst into laughter. You did the same thing with me when your gambling came to light. You said, "What's wrong with spending the money I earned on my hobby?" You must have repeated the same with Sophia, leading to a fight, and now you're taking it out on me. Eric clenched his fists and fell silent. Don't underestimate a wife of 28 years, I thought to myself, seeing his frustrated face. You should be thankful I managed your schedule as your secretary. I minimized your gambling time to save you from ruin. Can a naive 21-year-old do that? Well. You have no choice but to let her try. You're having a child, after all. Child. At that word, Eric's face lit up. What a transparent man. Yes, Sophia and I are having a child. Unlike you, who's infertile, she can give me an heir. You lost as a woman. Eric looked down on me triumphantly. That's great for you. We're happy. Don't try to ruin my family again. I came here to warn you today. Eric pointed at me, saying so. I tilted my head, puzzled. Me ruin it? I have no such intention. In fact, I'm thinking of helping you. Help me. Eric looked perplexed, clearly at a loss. Did you go with Sophia to the gynecologist? Huh? That place is for women. Sophia said she wanted to go alone, so I didn't accompany her. You saw the ultrasound photo, right? The glossy, thick photo paper. No, the one I saw was just thin, regular paper. I thought so. I presented Eric with several photos I had pulled from a clear file. They were grainy black and white photos, an ultrasound of a baby. Eric stared at the photos, then back at me. What's this supposed to mean? These are real ultrasound photos. The ones Sophia showed you were fake. Anyone can print a picture on regular paper. Eric's face turned pale. No, that's impossible. Why don't you ask Sophia to show you the original? And maybe go with her to the next appointment. Eric looked lost, the realization slowly sinking in. But why would she lie? Maybe you should find out, I said softly. And remember, I'm not the one trying to ruin your family. Eric stumbled out of my condo, the photos clutched in his hand. I closed the door, feeling a sense of closure. Now it was up to him to deal with the mess he had made. Eric's eyes widened. What? You're pregnant? Of course not. This was a gift from Sophia. She's quite prepared, isn't she? Printing these out from the internet for me. I could see the confusion on his face. Internet. Eric looked puzzled. I handed him a piece of paper. It was a printout of a blog post from 2 years ago. The post was a pregnancy announcement with ultrasound photos. Compare this with the earlier photo. Notice anything? After looking back and forth between the photo and the article, Eric's face turned pale. You don't mean? That's right. I matched the copied photo from the article with Sophia's ultrasound photo. Holding them up to the light, the baby silhouette and the noise matched perfectly. Do you know about image search? It's a feature that searches the internet for images similar to the one you have. I found this blog using it. She must have copied the article directly, cutting out the photo neatly. So, the child. Eric went pale, looking like he might collapse. It's a lie. There's no one in her belly. Eric collapsed to his knees. No, that can't be. She wouldn't lie about something like that. Impossible. After everything I bought for her, designer clothes, bags, even an expensive engagement ring. Eric vented his confused emotions by repeatedly hitting the floor with his fist. His actions were so ridiculous, I couldn't help but smile. It's a shame you couldn't become a father. When you think about it, considering your age, it's doubtful you could have fathered a child. Thinking a young partner would guarantee a child was naive. Ask Sophia for the truth. I'll call her over now. Eric was too drained to argue. He just slumped there, silent. I had Sophia come to the condominium soon after. The doorbell rang, and I opened the door. Upon seeing me with Eric, she screamed. What are you doing here? Trying to take Eric back from me. No. Didn't I say I was thankful to you? I have a baby in my belly. You can't tear us apart. Sophia screamed triumphantly, not listening to me. She entered and gently embraced Eric's shoulder. Are you okay? Let's go back and talk about the money. I'll manage the finances. That's okay, right? We'll overcome this trial together. After all, in my belly. Shut up. Eric slowly stood up. He looked at Sophia intently and quietly said, the pregnancy is a lie, isn't it? Sophia's face contorted noticeably. What? What are you talking about, honey? Tell me the truth, Sophia. The pregnancy is real. I showed you the ultrasound photo. Our child is the fruit of our love. How can you deny that? Sophia sat on the floor, breaking down in tears. But then she raised her head and glared sharply at me. You must have filled his head with weird ideas. You're just jealous because you're old, and I'm young and beautiful. Sophia huffed arrogantly. I laughed back at her. Is that all you have to say? Hey, Eric, let's just go home, okay? Sophia tried to pull Eric's arm, but he brushed her off. Enough, Sophia. Huh. Eric thrust the blog post copy and the ultrasound photo at Sophia. There's no escaping the truth now. I trusted you. How could you lie about something like this? I was so happy. Sophia's face went through a range of emotions: shock, denial, anger, and finally, a bitter resignation. I just wanted us to be together, she whispered. Eric turned away, his shoulders slumped. You've destroyed any chance of that. He walked out the door, leaving Sophia behind in the room with me. I stood there, watching Sophia's world crumble, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. She had tried to take everything from me, but in the end, her lies were her undoing. As she sat there, crying, I knew that I could finally move on with my life, Tears filled my eyes, but I steeled myself. Sophia, I began, do you really think this man has money? Sophia's expression faltered. Of course he's rich. He's a president after all. I sighed. Indeed, our company has been passed down through generations and isn't doing badly, but that's about the company as a whole. This man is a gambler. Do you understand what that means? Sophia's face turned pale as she clung to Eric. Hey, Eric, you're rich, right? You told me once we're married we'd live a wealthy life because you have more money than you know what to do with. Eric responded in a faltering voice, It's okay. I've lost some money gambling, but we're starting a new business soon. That'll be our big break. I interrupted their delusions. What are you talking about? I pointed out Eric's ugly lies. I know for a fact there's no new business venture planned. What do you mean? You got funding from Carl recently, right? Where is that money now? Surely it wasn't spent on luxury brands and an engagement ring for a new wife, I said, glaring at Eric. What? That's not something I would do. Eric laughed derisively, though his voice trembled. I sighed briefly. You embezzled the company's money. Eric swallowed hard under my steady gaze. Y at suspicions. You've been saying you're starting new ventures and getting funding from Carl, but no business ever materializes, just one new venture after another. It was odd not to doubt, so I spoke with Carl to gather solid evidence. You teamed up against me, then. The money Joe transferred that day was a decoy. You transferred the business funds directly into your own bank account this time. Usually, you're more careful, using various accounts to avoid detection. What? Were you that desperate for money, trying to prove to Sophia you're wealthy? Eric fumbled for words, confirming my suspicions. You're done. Get arrested and live as a criminal for the rest of your life. Shut up. It's a family matter. It'll probably just end with probation. Besides, Joe will bail me out. Even if I'm charged, I'll be out in no time. Eric reassured himself. Why do you know all this? You were supposed to be fired. You have nothing to do with this. Carl told me. Joe did. Eric opened his mouth in surprise. I explained calmly, yes. When he heard you dumped me, he contacted me immediately. He apologized for your terrible actions and asked if he could hire me back. I said yes right away. You didn't know Joe was keeping it from me? That bastard. I'm grateful to Carl. He put me in charge of schedule management, and I'm earning more than before. I showed a broad smile, and Eric gritted his teeth. That Joe. I'll confront him right now. As Eric was about to leave, Sophia grabbed his arm. She pulled him towards her with strength, their faces almost touching, her expression devilish. Hey, you lowlife, huh? Eric was taken aback by Sophia's uncharacteristically low voice. Taking a deep breath, Sophia yelled, You lied to me, flaunting your wealth, and in reality, you're just an old criminal. Don't mess with me. I'm sorry, Eric muttered, looking utterly defeated. Sophia's face contorted with rage and disgust. Sorry? Sorry won't cut it. You've ruined everything. She pushed him away, tears streaming down her face. I thought we had a future together, but it was all based on lies. Eric, now realizing the full extent of his actions, sank to the floor, head in hands. I didn't mean for it to end like this. Well, it has, I said firmly. You both made your choices. Now, you have to live with the consequences. Sophia, still furious, looked at me with a mixture of hatred and despair. What do we do now? That's up to you, I replied. But know this, you're not welcome in my life anymore. Both of you need to face what you've done and deal with it. With that, I turned away, leaving Eric and Sophia to their shattered dreams and broken illusions. It was time for me to move forward, free from their deceit and drama. Eric, though terrified, took Sophia's hand and looked into her eyes. He slowly said, but it's okay. I'll probably get probation and I can return home. I might be fired from the company, but we can still be happy without money if we're together. Don't joke with me. Sophia shook off Eric's hand and glared at him. There's no way a beautiful young woman like me would live with an old, penniless man like you. After I lied about being pregnant to get us to marriage? What a waste of time. The worst. Sophia shoved Eric aside and left the room. Sophia, wait for me. Eric called after her. Shut up. Sophia slammed the door shut. Eric, abandoned by his new wife, stood at the entrance like a ghost. I spoke to him. Please leave. This is my home. Ingrid, can't we start over? Me as the president and you as the secretary, like before. Eric tried to charm me with a fawning smile, but I flatly rejected him. It's impossible. I hate you. I never want to see your face again. Eric's eyes widened, and he started to tremble. Enough of that. I opened the door and pushed Eric out. As I locked the door and began watching TV, Eric quietly left the condominium, realizing it was all over. Later, Eric was arrested. He had thought Carl would bail him out, but that expectation was wrong, and he was taken to a cold jail cell alone. Eric was arrested for embezzling funds entrusted to him by Carl. Besides, he had told suppliers and related companies he was starting new ventures, asking for loans, and then diverting those funds to his personal account for private use. Eric received a sentence without probation and won't be out for several years. As for Sophia, she was suspected of conspiring with Eric and was investigated. Though no evidence of conspiracy was found, the police discovered she had been scamming money from various businessmen. She approached wealthy-looking men in bars, became their girlfriend, and then claimed she needed money for a pregnancy or a parent's surgery. Essentially, Eric was also a victim of Sophia's scams. Sophia was arrested for fraud. Thus, both of them ended up in the care of the police. Half a year passed since Eric's arrest. I am still working with Carl, recovering the company's image. After a scandal, this is not easy, and Carl is always worried. I want to support him, feeling grateful to him. One evening, we returned to the company together. Carl sank deeply into his chair, exhaling. It's been a tiring day. We had a series of business dinners. Carl looked into my eyes and smiled. But thanks to you, Ingrid, for picking a good restaurant. We had an enjoyable meal. Many of the clients are around my age, so they appreciated the healthy yet luxurious dining experience. Plus, none of them knew about today's place. It was like a surprise. Thanks to that, the conversation flowed well. Thank you. Carl wore a gentle smile. Unlike Eric, Carl is always calm and composed. When he speaks with someone, he always uses polite language, and his sincere character is evident. I find Carl's personal charm appealing. It's too kind of you to say. I thanked him. Carl sighed contentedly. To think someone as capable as you is Eric's spouse, truly surprising. I chuckled lightly. Former spouse. I have no relation with him anymore. All right. By the way, Ingrid, how long do you plan to work? Don't you think about retiring and living quietly at home? I answered with a smile. I love my work. As long as I'm physically able, I want to keep working. Carl nodded happily several times. I want you to help me rebuild this company. It's going to be a long partnership, but I'm counting on you from now on. I nodded firmly. Yes, Carl. As I responded energetically, Carl laughed as if amused. Seeing his laughter made me feel warm inside. My second life is surely going to be enjoyable. Looking at Carl's smile, I thought just that.